Hi from me, Sigmund again. Well, in the last section, I pointed out the effects of investing in what is often perceived to be an asset. So investing in an asset, but which later falls into the FISO principle pitfall and becomes tied up capital or cash. I also showed that this often occurs in businesses and needs to be avoided for the business's financial survival. But is there a real solution? I do believe that there is one, especially when working with startups. I have come across a method of approaching a business startup that has been shown to be very successful. And I've called this method the James Tennyson methodology. I coined the name James Tennyson methodology to recognize the two men that showed me their own success when they created their own little business venture, and they stuck to this methodology. They were not MBAs or graduates or even undergraduates. They barely finished school. Yet they understood the effects of the FISO principle without any of this formalized training. So what is it that they did? Well, let me illustrate their method using a particular startup so that we can see how they were effective. And you can then decide what path you would like to follow in your startup. Let us assume that you have an interest in creating a nursery, a place for plants, selling plants as your business venture. So you love plants and the outdoors and derive a lot of reward from doing this type of work. It's been your hobby for years, and you believe you can make a successful business out of the effort that you put in here. So what resources do you believe you would require to achieve this dream of yours and make it a reality? Some have answered me before when I posed this question to them, and I list some of their basic ideas here. They felt that one would require firstly a piece of land. One would require a good water supply secondly. Thirdly, a certain amount of capital must be invested in some equipment of sorts, forks, spades, pruning shears, lawnmowers, etc. So you need to have some capital to invest in that. And then fourthly, you need some plants and seeds and seedlings to create the stock that you're eventually going to sell. So this would require some money to the average person. And if you never had any of these requirements, my question is, could you start this business? Many of you, and I include myself in this group, would knee-jerk and say, no, it's not possible. If you haven't got these things, how are you going to start up this business? One needs the money for these things. And if one hasn't got that, then the vision would remain purely a dream. But my two friends, James and Tennyson, proved me wrong. They created a nursery that was fully operational, and they never had any of these items. That's when I realized that they could see the FISO principle very clearly, and they understood the effects, and they applied it so well. Tennyson told me when I spoke to him one day that you need to start your business small and grow into it. That way you understand it better and you would have better control of it. As you can see in these pictures here, their business looks quite successful. I really admire their tenacity and enthusiasm, as well as how they applied these theories of successful businesses. What makes this even more remarkable is that these two friends live in a squatter camp right next to the business they built. They live below the poverty line, possibly still do, but they have an income source that was non-existent 6 months earlier. They had no additional resources at this point. Despite having this manicured lawn, they still have no lawnmower. The garden tools that they use are rudimentary. Have a look at this business office. It's a makeshift structure which they've knocked together from pieces of wood that they found. Yet the place has a rustic natural appeal about it, doesn't it? They've laid out a garden path here, and this from discarded stepping stones that they found. The plants, their stock that's around here, came out of garden refuse where people had cleaned out overgrown gardens and flower beds. They had gone and salvaged cuttings from this and then promulgated new flowers from what was refuse. These signboards they created are rustic, but they have a certain rustic country charm to them, don't they? They realized that they didn't have the resources to invest in assets and therefore only created those assets, and they created them, that were absolutely necessary. That is the lesson to be learned. Do not go and buy lots of assets when they are not necessary. Notice how they have products here and stocks without having had any money at the outset to invest in this business. The owners have been frugal in investing into their venture, and they have used assets that create wealth. Whether they bought them or they found them was immaterial. They acquired the assets that create their wealth. Now, the accounting technicians would record these assets as having no value, yet the owners generate wealth from them. Is the concept starting to become clearer to you? That it's not how much you paid for the asset that makes it create wealth, but what you do with the asset.